All right, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Is everybody ready for Thanksgiving? No? Born ready. Ready to eat? All right. Well, it's a fun time of year. We always host a bunch of people. Got family coming in from St. Louis, so it'll be busy at our house the next couple of weeks. Welcome to our Woodworkers Guild meeting. Welcome to you all that are online. If it's anybody out there on YouTube or Facebook, glad to have you. Glad to see all of you here. Appreciate you coming out. Do we have any first-time visitors here tonight? All right, great. Thank you for joining us. We need to stand up and give about a 10-minute biography of yourself. All right, great to have you. Any first-time members? Any new members here tonight? All right. Well, we're saving them all up for next month. Yes, good to have everybody. And next month, you won't have to listen to me talk because it'll be our Christmas party. That'll be nice. Got our normal agenda, as you guys know, so we're going to buzz through here, and we'll hit all the normal people. Officers' reports. Mike McCauley, you have anything? I know you've got a big weekend coming up. I'm sure you'll talk about that as you come. David Roth, anything special to announce tonight? Okay, nothing from David. Craig, anything special? All right, this is fast. This is my kind of meeting. Gary, we don't have? He says there's nothing to report, and I think the guild is still able to pay our bills, so that's a good thing. Chuck in the back has stuff for sale. What are the highlights back there, Chuck? Hand screw kits. Oh, wow, Baltic birch scraps. Project pieces, yeah. One man's scrap is another man's treasure. So if you're looking for Baltic birch project pieces, go see Chuck. All right. Brian, anything from the communications committee tonight? Nothing tonight. And I know Ron Hall, who does an amazing job in the newsletter. If you're watching, Ron, thank you, because I was late getting my newsletter article out. So he deals with a lot of stuff, and I should not be treating him that way. But and I know that his wife is not feeling well, so our prayers out to Ron. What's that? And Ron had a birthday, so happy birthday, Ron, if you're listening. Don is Don Steele here tonight? Yeah, Don's got magazines and books. Any hot ones out there we should know about, Don? Got a great selection. So amazing stuff. It's fun to flip through and look at all the articles. It's kind of not what we do anymore, but the world has moved on, but not a lot of us have moved on, right? You're still pretty traditional, a lot of us. So make sure you all are checking out our Facebook page. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. There's a Facebook group that people ask questions. We interact. I think there's been some good traffic. Where to buy wood? That seems to be always the topic, because a lot of people don't know where to buy wood. And the good thing about it is they get 75 answers. So. The answer is it depends on what you need and what you're looking for. So there usually are about 75 options. Instagram, if you've got work out there, we'd love to put it on there. I post a few things here and there on, and I tag the Woodworkers Guild on Instagram. So check that out, and don't forget to just subscribe and ring the bell and like on our YouTube videos. We have we put our monthly meetings on YouTube. We have our podcasts on YouTube that Kevin does such a great job with. And we've had some other things on there, some skill builders. So there's a nice library of videos. So if you're looking for some content go check it out, like it, and subscribe it. Kevin, anything to discuss on the podcast? Well, we'll give you the floor.
Hi, everybody. Podcast. We're going to be recording a new episode coming up, hopefully first week of December. Things have been kind of busy around here, so we haven't been able to get a new episode up and running. Training has been busy. We've got new classes for holiday quickies that went up yesterday, and a couple of them are almost all full. So if you want to...
What classes are those? What are the quickies?
The modern version of the shaker step, which I'm teaching. We have a utility tote with Dave Kratz. A 5x7 frame with picture frame with David Craig, and Norm Carpenter's got a hot plate trivet. So
The steps, do those have ball and claw feet?
what's
Steps
no ball and claw feet.
All right, I'm out.
Our basic, intermediate, and hand tool woodworking for next year is up and available to subscribe to sign up for. The basic is already full, and the waiting list is filling up. So that's where we're at right now.
Any good feedback from your surveys last month?
Yes, there was. We had one request for a spoon carving class, and I'm already working on that with a young lady from Minnesota that Matt Nowak gave me information on, and she seems to be, it looks like if we have that class, it'll be a reasonably priced class. So, and more on that to come probably after the holidays.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kevin. Next on the list, Chris McCauley. Do you want the floor a little bit, Chris, to talk about a few things?
Yeah, so the Santa's Workshop is coming up this weekend. Have a really good response so far on our Facebook, and people are interested. Thank you for everyone who's passed out flyers. If you have kids or grandkids or neighbors that are interested, please bring them down. We do still need some help on, we have a Saturday morning assembly and Sunday morning greeter and sales, and Sunday afternoon greeters and sales, as well as some other spots. So if you're free this weekend and would like to help out, we'd love to have you. It's a lot of fun for everyone who's been involved in it last year. You can talk to them. And then also coming up next month's meeting is the annual Christmas dinner. Sign up just went out on that. It's in the newsletter. We have an email blast coming out here soon too. Make sure you get signed up, and make sure you're bringing those desserts, because I think that's part of everyone's favorite is the desserts. Craig is a request for the bourbon balls.
Yes. Gary will bring the bourbon balls, one for everyone. Maybe not. All right, next on the list, is Jim Berard here tonight? So it's 940 members right now, and the renewals just went out today. So take advantage, sign up early and often. So I think right now you get a discount if you sign up before, I think, February 1st. So, but you really should do it now. Get it done, get it taken care of. You can check that one off your list. So, absolutely, you can think about someone that you want to join you down at the guild. Get them a membership. That's a great idea for Christmas. Next, Matt on programs.
We'll have Roland Moeller, our previous president. What is it? Past president. There you go, PP. Our past president I think it's going to be a really interesting program tonight about using, he uses wood in order to refurbish truck beds and trailers and stuff like that. And I did not know that these things run into the tens of thousands of dollars. Obviously, it's not all just for the wood. There's a lot of metal and a lot of other stuff goes into it. But still, the wood that goes into it is fascinating. And I really do think I didn't charge anywhere near enough money for the wood that I sold to a couple guys working on their trucks because I didn't know any better. December is a super great party. If you haven't been here for our Christmas party, it's really a lot of fun to come to. You're definitely going to pay far less than what it costs us to put the party on for all the food and everything else. So the $20 is a heck of a really good deal. I'm not trying to steal Chris's thunder on that, but I'm just saying it's a fun party to come to. And then for January, February, March, I'm not too sure, but I do have Mike McCauley gave me the name. John Boyd is a member. His place burned down, unfortunately. He's a nationally known mandolin maker. I was talking with him, and I mean the names that he was throwing out to show it of his house for little jam sessions and such, like, holy crap. I mean, these are national names. These are award winners from Nashville and places like that. And this is right here in Kansas City. He's over here in the Bottoms is where he lives, and he has his shop. But it burned down anyway. He's getting it fixed. And he says January is probably a little bit too early, maybe February or March. We have the spoon carver. She's a young gal from Minneapolis. I'm hoping to have her come down here to give a shop.
She said she's not going to be able to do Wednesdays.
Oh, bummer. I really wanted her to be here to give a program. That's okay. She'll still do a great class. I did a class with her online, and she's really a great instructor. It took about 2 hours at most to make some really nice spoons. Great price. She'll bring down the frozen wood from Minneapolis or from Minnesota. You'll really enjoy that class. Other than that, I don't have anything lined up for programs. So if you've got ideas in mind, I'd like to see the wood carvers do another program. You guys got to, make some presentations on wood carving. I can't make them happen. You guys have got to do them, and do that. And I think people want to see wood carving. So I can't remember her name. Oh, Jess. I can't remember her last name. Jessie Hirsch. She's up in Minneapolis. You'll really love her. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. And I still need to make that connection for us on Tom McLaughlin from Epic Woodworking. So maybe we'll have a chance to have him out in the spring. Next on the list, so Steve and safety, there is safety orientation. The next one is December 11th, and the safety committee meetings are held on the second Tuesday of every month at 7. And always looking for new committee members. So if you're interested or you're passionate about safety or you think safety is important, which we all should, maybe step up and help us out. Rough to ready, Mike, you got November, December rough to ready schedules are up if you need to get green card. So take a look at the website or talk to Mike. We can get you fixed up. Sponsorship, Dwayne, you got raffles back there. So
Amazon Smile.
And as always, remember, if you're using Amazon, especially in the holidays, you're looking for Christmas gifts, remember to go to smile.amazon.com, and you can copy the number up there on your screen, but you can also just search for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. That also does it as well. They'll what Amazon does, and I know most of you all know that, but 1% of your purchase price gets donated to the charity of your choice. And it has added up to, I believe we're up to maybe $1,200 or something like that over the last 2 or 3 years. So, hey, I like free money, right? We all do. It helps the guild. So that's something we should all take advantage of. I know my last couple purchases, I did remember to do smile.amazon.com. So sometimes I haven't remembered, and I should always remember that. So looking at the agenda, we now we'll reach out to all of our SIGs, which is our special interest groups. So hand tool SIG, is Rob here tonight? I don't see Rob. Hand Tools meets fourth Sunday of the month from 2 to 4. January will be the next meeting, okay? And that'll be the fourth Sunday of the month of January from 2 to 4. Wayne, do you know what the program will be? All right, well, we can announce that. It'll be a hot seller, I guarantee you. It'll be about hand tools of some shape or fashion. Either the tools or the use of the tools. Wood carving SIG. Any announcements on the wood carvers? So, fourth Tuesday of the month, 6 to 8, in the classroom. Traditional. So okay, I'm going to repeat that, Dan, so we can get it on the microphone. So we work on the wood carving SIG works on traditional carving, on pyrography and power carving. And come on in, bring your projects in. There's lots of experience, lots of people that know how to do a lot of things, and they're more than willing to help and get you involved. It's a great thing to do. I love wood carving myself. Why haven't I ever come to your meetings? I should do that. Hey, that's my type of carving is pretty traditional as well. That's another expression of carving. Next one, laser engraver. Mike, anything special? The laser engraver SIG is the fourth Wednesday of the month at 7.
Yeah, the laser engraver SIG is where we meet on the fourth Wednesday. If you want to come down and you want to get trained for the laser engraver, we do that immediately following the meeting, our SIG meeting. This month we're going to be having a Christmas ornament that you can make. We may not be able to let everybody make them while they're here, but we can at least give you the file and show you how to make them. So come on down.
Awesome, thank you, Mike. Scroll saw SIG. Have we seen anyone? All right, George, come on up and tell us about what's going on with the scroll saws.
First off, okay.
There you go. You see yourself there.
First off, that we will not have a meeting in December. Also, I am looking for people that like to scroll to give demonstrations this weekend. Only 2 people have volunteered to, well, I'm sorry, 3 people have volunteered to give demonstrations. I could use a whole lot more so that we have a whole lot more variety of what people do. Because people aren't going to want to watch me making puzzles all day long. So come out, and I'll be working with Kevin on classes for next year. That's it.
Awesome, thank you. And that's the scroll saw SIG, which is not in December but starts back up in January. It's the second Wednesday of the month at 7. So come on out if you're interested in scrolling. Lastly, last SIG, it's a CNC group. Gary, do you have anything to talk about from the CNC group? Great meeting yesterday. So no meeting in December. So that's a common theme. Yeah, so CNC SIG will fire back up in January, and that is the third Tuesday of the month. So 6:30 to 7. I know it's a lot to remember, but our website has all of these on the calendar. So if you have questions, you can reach out to the Guild, or you can check the Guild website. That is a pretty nice quick run through of the agenda. So now we can come to to one of my favorite things is show and tell with Jim Bainey. Come on up, Jim. And if you have show and tell items, you can head over to your spot so that you're kind of prepared to come up and talk about what you're working on. Is Jim coming up? What's that? All right. Well, I had a show and tell. I did not bring it in, but if So you know how sometimes people will contact the guild and they go out to the classifieds. I answered one of those ads a couple of months ago, and the lady wanted an ottoman. Go to the other picture. So she wanted an ottoman that she's an interior designer, and she custom designed it and drew it, and you know, she was really passionate about it. So I met with her. Sounded like it's something I wanted to do. The woodworking was pretty. It wasn't really it was straightforward. I've done more complex woodworking projects. I would never. Obviously, you want to do a nice job no matter what the woodworking is, but the real stretch for me was the upholstery. So it was pretty traditional, but I built a platform. I got the foam. I wrapped it in the polyester batting, and the textile that she chose was pretty thick. So the big challenge was the corners. I had never done anything like that. So I've done slip seats and some other lesser involved upholstery. It really went together pretty smoothly, especially having a little bit of background and doing simpler upholstery things. The challenge was the corners, since everything was so tall. It's about 7.5 inches tall, and with the textile was so thick. So thankfully we have YouTube videos, and I found some videos on how to do a upholstery ladder stitch. So I hand sewed the corners, and I don't know, it's kind of cool. I feel like I learned another skill. So I think it turned out great. I delivered it to the couple, and they loved it. So that it's walnut stained with it's a dark stain and shellac and wax, dark wax. She wanted kind of an older, aged look. Hard to tell really with the pictures, but it's walnut. Yes, Kevin.
Are you ready to teach a class on upholstery?
Teach a class on upholstery. I think about what I know about upholstery would be about a 15-minute class, but furniture upholstery. Maybe we could talk about that. I do know a few minor skills. I'm sure other people could blow me away on their upholstery ability, but I'm willing to tackle things from time to time. Come on up, Jim.
So first thing I want to announce, Kevin, you didn't announce the. Nope. Okay, so on the 3rd of December, we're going to have a skill builder class session from 2 to 4. And I'm going to show you how I make tables for the Flourish Furnishing table project. I'm in the process of, and look, I'm an unconventional warfare officer. There ain't no rules. This applies to those tables. As long as they're functional and the finish is halfway decent, they can be used. Some of the tables that we get over at the furniture bank are, you can attest to this, Steve, they're in really sorry shape. Right. And yeah, and the demand is super high, and that's kind of why we're doing this project. So I'll show you how I build a table. I'm open for suggestions for any design changes. If you want to take a table home and put it together and build it, I'll have some material here ready to do that. Or if you want to build a table from scratch, and then later on, probably at the first part of January, we're going to have classes on how to build those tables. So that's the. I hope to see you on the 3rd. Okay. No, go ahead. Come on, Jim or Tom. I I can't imagine what you're going to do with this.
I spent over 200 hours carving that. That's my thumb.
It looks like you hit your thumb with a framing hammer.
Yeah. It was given to me, and the consensus is it's a burl, but I've never seen a burl stick out of the tree that far. It came from the Pacific Northwest. That's all I know about it. But they had it for a couple of years. They were moving back to Portland and gave it to me about a year ago, and I've been pondering what to do with it ever since. I'm thinking I'm going to slice it into veneer, but you know, how to approach that is the question.
Got any idea about the species?
We sliced the bottom a little bit. It's a closed grain, so it's like maple. It's heavy enough to be maple, but I don't really know. That's why I brought it, was someone could tell me what it is. And
Yeti's actual thumb.
it does look like a thumb from certain angles.
Or it could be,
Okay.
So
So, anybody got any questions or comments or feedback? This is pretty unique.
it's pretty unique. I've never seen anything like it, and it is pretty heavy.
Okay. Well, let us know what you do with it after back surgery.
Is anybody using that new app to take a picture and figure out what they are, the species?
Hi, Russ.
Hi.
I'm Russ Amos. This is a loose tenon mortising jig that, God dang it, I can't remember the magazine's name, Woodsmith had in there. And so I got the plans and made it. I've made a dining room table and several other projects with it. Works really, really nice. I made up a whole bunch of, oops, that's good on it. Whole bunch of different stock of different sizes, so it'll do up to ½ inch thick, whatever your router bit is. And it, like I say, it's worked out really nice. It's easy to operate.
These are some of the tenons that you made with it?
Yes. Well, no, these are the tenons that I use with it.
Okay.
So it's made for putting mortise and tenon on like rails and stiles, or like for a table. But this is the stock that I made to put in the mortise. Yeah, like a domino, only cheaper. And it was all made out of scrap plywood that I had laying around the shop. And so once you set it, you put your router in there with the bit, slide it back and forth with these stops, keep it from going too far. And you can do vertical pieces, or you can do horizontal pieces with it.
So, oh, I see. You just clamp it in from the bottom side.
Yes. Yeah, and this
So
this
you
one.
turn it for a vertical piece?
Right, you turn this piece vertical, and you can adjust it back and forth. So once you get it set and get these stops set, you just do all of your rails, and then you turn it and set it up and do the stiles, so you don't have to worry about resetting the width of it. Any questions? Well, that's the
You have it
two
set up for this
2¼ DeWalt is what it's set up for. You can you can make it for whatever size router you've got.
Do you have to use the plunge feature on it?
Yes, because when you're doing the mortise, you don't want to go deeper each time than the diameter of the bit. So a 1/4 inch bit, you can only go to 1/4 inch at a time.
Where'd that rule come from?
I've read that several places that way. Because it keeps if you go too deep with the bit, especially a 1/4 inch bit, it'll wobble on you and make the hole bigger and break. Anything else?
So, how often have you used this?
Oh, it's like I built a dining room table, built several boxes and some face frames with it.
You use it, I mean.
Yeah, I've used it a lot.
Tenon joint, you
Yeah.
use it?
Yeah, you know, it's in lieu of a biscuit. It's you know, I use biscuits for flats, long, you know, like tabletops, but this what I would use for rails and stiles. And
So are you saying you don't have the
Microphone.
$1,500 to buy a domino?
nope.
Microphone, Jim. Microphone.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. Here. Okay, Dave.
Hey, Jim. Can everyone see that okay?
You can get it. Just lay down.
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, good. This here's a charcuterie board. I'm starting to do a little bit of epoxy charcuterie boards. This one here is a purple and a blue. The challenges to this was the other one I built a while back, I had white in there. After about 12 hours after it sat, I got these beautiful swirls. About an hour, hour and a half later, it went away. And it's like, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Paint mic, Dave.
I'm sorry?
That one's
Pete?
gone dead.
There we go. Oh, wow. All right, we're back. Anyway, when I used the white, it kind of bled in there. And so you have to wait a certain amount of time to put it in there. And when you use the gold, I had to wait 16 hours before I put the gold in. And when I put the gold on top, this was like taffy. I mean, you could pull it up like this tall, and it would slowly go back down. Now, I did an experiment, and I didn't bring the block with me, but 12 hours I poured the gold on top, and it sank right down to the bottom. So you have to find a happy medium to this. So like I said, I'm still new at this. With this here, on top of it is a tabletop coating. It's self-leveling. So once you put it on there, after 15 minutes, make sure your table, your bench is flat and level. Put your level on there, make sure everything's flat and level. And it just only used about a half cup. That's all there was onto it. Because I have a half cup left over. It's like, oh. Anyway, but yeah, so I have blue tape on the bottom of the board. So suggestions from you, from the guild members here. Should I use like a monocoat, Rubio monocoat finish on the back and have a satin finish? Should it be, walrus cutting board finish? So next time I do this, I'm going to put the finish on the back first. And after you put tape on it, the blue tape, you know, the removable blue tape kind for painting, after 12 hours you remove that tape because the drips are on the tape and you don't want to mess up your edge. So far, that's what I'm figuring out. I have another one in the works, so it'll be a continuous project.
Questions?
Yes, sir.
Dave, is that epoxy sort of self-grip? In a sense, it's a glue to the edge?
The tabletop part after the colors. Yeah, this is a clear coat on top. It,
But keeps it, the epoxy,
What's the adhesion?
yeah, the adhesion of the epoxy to the wood.
I just sanded it up to 500 grit, and that's it. And then it just rolls over. And
It's just like glue.
this is talking about the ends.
No, the butt right here.
Oh, that's just the wood and the resin, epoxy resin. Yeah.
Epoxy it adheres to absolutely everything.
I've used it for cracks. And
Right. I did brush a little bit on there. Let it sit for about half an hour, 40 minutes before I poured it, because if it's open pores, you'll get air bubbles coming up. So you just brush with a foam brush, and then you just mix your colors up and go for it.
you wouldn't want to do a class on that, would you?
I need to do 2 or 3 more of these boards. Then maybe. It's expensive. Think about it. It costs $290 for 3 gallons. So you have about $100 a gallon. And you can probably get about 6 or 7 projects out of that. So 7 into 30 is what, 40, 50 bucks a piece. So it's going to cost you about $50 just in resin alone. And then your top coat. So about 60 bucks.
Yeah, Yeah, but you can buy resins in much smaller quantities.
And it'll cost you more.
Well,
How many are you going to make? That's
Yeah.
that's the thing about it.
Okay.
If you're gonna continuously do it, the larger quantities you buy, the less it is. So if you start buying in 6-gallon batches, it takes about $100 off. But it's a fun thing to do, and it makes great gifts.
What-
It is food safe. It is food safe. It's called liquid glass.
what particular brand of epoxy did you use?
I believe it's liquid glass from Woodcraft. So that's their brand up there. So
There's about a dozen different companies that make epoxy that you can use for that.
Total Boat's good. Stone Coat, Upstart Epoxy's good. I didn't have too much luck with Total Boat. That was just me, but I tried it. But read the instructions really well and just follow them, and you'll do fine. Yes. I don't know. I think it's a year after you open it. But if it starts turning yellow, you're mixing with colors anyway. It may take longer to cure. There has been questions on that. If you go to the store and you buy a epoxy at the hardware store and you see the two parts and one's yellow and goldish, don't buy that one. You want them both kind of in the same color, clear. But it should still probably work, but I haven't had any of that yet. So I hope to go through it before that. Yes, sir. Yeah, heat gunned it for about a minute or so. The last time I did it, it got too hot. I hit the heat gun on it, and it seized it. And it's like, wasn't that. It was another word. But, yeah, shucks. So I learned not to do that. But when you do it and you put that coat on, it'll be like looks like foam. Just let it sit for 15 minutes or so after you hit it with the heat gun. And it just kind of disappears. It's really cool. In about a half an hour, there's hardly any little tiny micro bubbles. Even on the top coat, yeah, that went really smooth. There was no bubbles on that. But I did have my heat lamp, or one of those big old lights, not lights, those ones you just put on the desk. Pixar, boink, boink, whatever. I put it up here, and I put the heat gun on it. And it was like 85 degrees, right? Without the heat gun, it was like 74. So it was a 10-degree difference on that. So I may do that. Just not too close, but just because my shop's cold. And this needs to be 75 degrees and above to work really well. So they say. If you have any other questions, you can meet me back there, and I'll be free to answer them.
Dave and I did I was in the process of building a waterfall table, coffee table. And so I got the expert here over, and I wanted to pour. I routed out. I kept the slab flat, and I dammed it up in both ends, and what we wanted to do is take two colors of blue, and Dave got on one side and I got on the other, and we poured at the same time, the whole time trying to get it to mix a little bit, and the problem was that the dark blue took over, and the whole thing turned out dark blue. So I might as well.
So what I did after going over to Jim's house, thanks for getting that out of the way, I took one of the Rosati's to-go lasagnas, the lids, that's HD, PE, whatever that type of plastic is, and I cut a dam. This isn't a silicone mold, so I don't have to build anything. You just pour the resin in the mold. So I put the piece of plastic between here and there, so it formed a dam. And then after 16 hours, I lifted it, and that's when I mixed the colors. So that could be a possibility of doing it that way. And then that came out the gold later.
Awesome color. Wow.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Who? So what's this?
I'm Neil Shoger. I was at a garage sale, picked this up, and I'm meandering towards checkout, and this old man comes running up and says, "I saw you pick that up. I saw you pick that up." I'm going, yeah, I'm going over here to buy it. And he goes, what is it? And I'm going, I don't have a clue. That's why I'm buying it. And he goes, well, shit. And I'm going, what's the matter? And he goes, well, I bought it 3 years ago because I didn't know what it was, and I've been looking at the damn thing every day since, and I can't figure it out, so I figured I'd put it in my sale, and whoever bought it, I'd ask them what it was. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave this over here. I'm not going to tell you what it is now. I'll tell you after the break, and maybe somebody will guess it.
So you know what it is?
I do now.
Oh, okay.
It took me probably a year to figure it out. And those of you that know Don Cruz, I figured he knew everything, right? He didn't know. And he called me one day and said, did you ever figure out what that thingy was? And I'm going, no. And he goes, well, I'll see you about 6 o'clock tomorrow. And I'm going, why? And he goes, well, we're going over to a tool collectors guild. I'm going, 6 o'clock, isn't that awful late for something like that? And he goes, you got the wrong 6 o'clock. So anyway, I went over, set this on he had a little table there, and I set it up there, and after about an hour, a guy came by and said, you know what you got there? And I'm going, if I did, I wouldn't be sitting there. And he told me, so I'll tell you later. So take a
Oh, man, I can't wait. Awesome.
Be careful. Don't put your finger in it.
So, are there any other projects? So I'm the last one? Okay, so the company that I work for has a ongoing contract with Midwest Baptist Seminary up on North Oak. And every once in a while I get called in to do a special project. This is a set of legs, extended legs, for a pulpit table. And the reason I had to, they wanted them, originally they were 4 inches shorter. So the guy that uses the pulpit is 6'7", and so he got tired of bending over, and so he asked me if I could raise it up 4 inches, and this was the easiest solution. So I added an inch up here and 3 inches down here. I got Cal to do the carving for me. Thank you. That spiral looks just awesome. So and then Craig Arnold's going to do the finish for me. So we got a real team here. Anyway, they've called me every other day for the last month wanting to know where these things are. And Tim said, I told you I'd get them to you when I got them to you. And so yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I put them together with dominoes. There's 4 dominoes stacked on one another on each one of them. And then one of the complaints that they had with the old ones was that this was in 2 parts. And so it was milled out, so the strength was this way. And so the outside veneer on this thing is a 1/4 inch veneer, and it's all single grain. So one of the things that they were complaining about was the difference in the grain made a difference in the color. So I hope Craig can solve that for me. Any questions about it? Good. I hope they don't have any questions for me up there either.
What kind of wood do you make it out of?
That's red oak. So I got a domino for Christmas, and it's it's been a game changer for me in terms of how I put things together. I used to use a mortise, and I have a mortising machine, and I'd cut the tenons on a jig on the table saw and fit them and play with them, and boy, a domino is wow. I really like it. Okay. Did I get that what? The back room at Harbor Freight? Never heard of it. You know, we used to have a old president. Where's Neil? Who's the president who used to bring here all the time? George Dixon. George used to call me up about once a month and say, "Hey, I'm going into to Harbor Freight. You want anything?" So one time I was working on a job and I was clear up on a 4-story building, and he called me up and said, "Hey, I'm about ready to go into into Harbor Freight. Do you want anything?" And I said, "George, how much you going to spend?" And he says, "Oh, $10-12, something like that." And I said, "Well, why don't you take 25 and buy out the whole store?" One of my favorite stories about George.
All right, thanks everybody for your projects. This is great. We're going to take a break, so we're doing good on time. So I would say about an 8-minute break. We have refreshments. Make sure you remember to go enter into the raffle. Check out all of the good stuff that Dwayne's got back there, and we'll see you all in about 8 or 9 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mike Jones, and welcome to another episode of the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild's ongoing series of machine safety videos. Today's video will introduce you to the safety rules and requirements of the Powermatic hollow chisel mortiser. Keep in mind that, like all safety videos, this video only covers the safety concerns of this machine and is not a complete training program for the use of this equipment. When in the shop, please direct any questions about using this or other machines to the on-duty shop foreman. He or she is there to act as your main resource in helping you to keep safe and provide advice and assisting you to successfully complete your project. Always remember, the most important of safety concerns is to wear approved safety glasses with side shields at all times while in the KCWG shop. Your regular glasses are not approved for use when participating in any shop activity while you are at the Guild. Hollow chisel mortisers are used to cut square or rectangular holes in wood, generally for the mortise side of a mortise and tenon joint. The hollow chisel mortiser is equipped with a square chisel with a rotating auger bit within the chisel that serves to remove large amounts of material while the chisel cuts a square or rectangular hole, leaving the square corners and smooth walls of the mortise. Hollow chisel mortisers are similar to a drill press in that the mortiser combines the square chisel with the rotating drill bit in the center. The bit inside the chisel clears out most of the material while the chisel ensures that the hole is clean, square, and smooth inside. When using the hollow chisel mortiser, one must first install the proper size chisel. The Kansas City Woodworkers Guild has a selection of mortising chisels sized from 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch. The mounting of the chisel and bit requires that you mount the chisel into the collet while inserting the bit shank into the chuck. The chuck is identical to one used in a drill press. It is best to use a piece of scrap stock to hold the chisel and bit in place while you tighten the chuck with the available chuck key. Once the bit is securely mounted in the chuck, you then loosen the collet, holding the chisel, and raise the chisel about 1/16 of an inch, and then retighten the collet screw. It is recommended that you then turn the chuck by hand one complete turn to ensure that nothing is binding. There are stop screws that allow you to set limits on the side-to-side and front-to-back travel of the bed. If you're not familiar with the setup procedure, please ask the foreman on duty to help you with this procedure. It's very important to remember to have your stock securely clamped into position before turning on the machine and cutting your mortises. When cutting through mortises, please be sure to have a piece of sacrifice material under your work so that you don't risk cutting into the machine bed. Another important thing to remember when using the hollow chisel mortiser is at the position of the waste port on the chisel. You will want to mount the chisel so that the waste port is leaving the waste behind in the previously cut hole. This helps to allow the waste material to not build up inside the chisel and generate friction heat, which will dull the chisel and the bit prematurely. Please ask the shop foreman for assistance if you're not sure how to set this up. It is also a really good idea to check the chisel and bit for sharpness before you start. A dull chisel can make things a lot more difficult and affect the quality of your mortise. Please ask the foreman to help you with sharpening the chisel if you're not familiar with how to do it. When you start the machine, be sure to never touch the chisel with the bit spinning. You should never allow your hands or fingers to be closer than 3 inches from the chisel when cutting your mortise. The auger is exposed on the side of the chisel where the waste port is located and can cause severe injury should you touch it. Remember, when cutting your mortises, the bit and chisel, ideally, should be fully engaged. Cut your first hole, then move the bed about 2/3 the size of the next hole to make the next cut. This puts less strain on the bit and eliminates the deflection of the chisel and bit and the high level of heat that can be generated by the deflection. Following this procedure will produce a cleaner cut and more professional looking results. Also, never try to hand hold the piece you're cutting. Your stock should be firmly clamped in the machine before you turn the mortiser on. Remember, the successful use of the hollow chisel mortiser is very dependent upon a good setup, especially when performing several repeat cuts on table or chair legs. When you're finished, you should take a few moments to check your work area, clean up the machine and the floor around where you've been working. This is Mike Jones. Thanks for watching.
Refreshment. So I am very excited to hear Roland's program. I know you probably can explain what you're going to talk about a lot better than I am. So I'm going to hand it over.
Real quick, this is a derooting device which didn't tell me anything. For those of you that might be farmers, you know what hog rings are. instead of hog rings, cuts the nose on either side so the hog doesn't want to root. De-rooting device. It better last a long time because I don't want to get close to the hog after you've done it the first time. I think that'd be a really bad idea.
All right, everyone. Let's wrap it up and turn it over to Roland. Thanks, Roland.
Okay, Chris. Okay. I started out as a rookie with the basic woodworking class about 10 years ago. And since then, everything I really needed to learn, I learned here, and I'm working full-time with wood. And one of the things I discovered when I first started full-time was jigs, 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 jigs. The first and most important thing, this is a jig I made for some blocks of wood. Pieces are rounded over, they're that wide, that long. The end has to be rounded this way, and then it has to be rounded all the way around. And they were telling me, oh, just freehand that with a router. Not my fingers. And jigs are, first and foremost, a safety device. It keeps your fingers away from the sharp, cutty things. I use it repeated, and by using this, I'm able to keep my fingers very far away, and personally, I'm attached to my fingers, and I want to keep them attached to me. The second thing for jigs is repeatability. I make 600 of these at a time. It's got round over on two sides. So first thing I do is I take a bunch of wood, cut it down close to size, and then I'll run it through a thickness planer so I get all four sides nice and smooth and even. Round over on these, round over down both sides. Cut it to length. I can do that, chop saw, put a stop block. We've all done that. But, where's my 5 and 6? How do you get your fingers and cut that angle without a jig? I'll pass these around. I've got several I'm going to be passing around. Pass some this way and I'll start some on the other side. When you're doing things like this, the only way you can get that in there is to take it. I've got a thing I push in here to push it with blocks, so I use a push block to even keep my fingers further than that away. And this is up against one fence, and then I've got this on the face of the chop saw. Push that in with the stop block or with a push block, and do my chops. I keep my fingers away. And I can cut the exact same piece time after the time. And the two of them that we're sending around of these, they've got the face on one side, and there's a hole drilled, and that's not centered. That hole is offset. And so the way you get that is you do so many this way, and then you turn it upside down, and the cut comes out on the other angle. And then I have a drill jig, and if you find one that's got edges around it, I've just got a round drill press, and with the round drill press, there's a hole right here, and I've got a hole drilled in the drill press. It locks it in so it's not pivoting on me. I've got it tight, and I can put my piece in, drill it this way, and if the bevel's the other way, I turn it upside down and get my right ones. Again, jigs for speed, for repeatability of accuracy, and for safety. That's the only way you can do, if you're making 300, 600, 800 pieces identical, you have to have jigs. It has to be jigged, or you just cannot work fast enough to do it. If you're having to try and figure out how to hand hold things, you're going to get hurt, and you're going to get not repeatable pieces. And what I work for is a company called Jim Carter Trucks. Jim started working on antique cars back in the 1960s, and then in the mid-70s he traded off one of his antique cars, and somebody traded him an old truck as partial payment on one of the cars he'd built. And he needed that old truck because he was building a house and he needed something to haul the trash off with, and he bought a 1950 Chevy pickup truck. And he got done building his house and he just wanted something else to do, and so he started rebuilding this old truck. And he couldn't find anybody that could get him the wood for the bed. He couldn't find anybody to get certain parts for him, so he started swap meeting around and doing it, and that's how he got in it. And Jim's 76 years old and still working full time because he loves working on old cars, and he loves it. So we handle parts for 34 to 72 Chevy and GMC trucks. We even had a guy come in with wanting some parts for a 1937 Chevy quarter-ton panel truck. And we didn't have the parts he needed. But I don't just work with wood. Again, jigs. This is a stand that mounts on the side of a radiator for a headlight. And actually it mounts like this. And this has to be drilled and tapped. If you have concrete or a mortar mixed like that, that sits right in there, holds it steady for you. I also make some of the oil lines that go inside. I have to solder them up and then put all the fittings on them. Make a lot of different things. They've kind of decided that if they don't know how to make it, Roland can figure out how to do it. So that's my job, is to do everything. But these little blocks that I showed you, some of the smaller ones, you've got the bed frame, and then you have your wood on top of the bed frame. And underneath there, you've got blocks that separates the bed frame from the truck frame. And that's what those smaller blocks are. This one here, it's a challenge in that Jim, the owner believes in Harbor Freight tools, seriously. And the drill press I have only drills to a depth of 3 inches. This is 4 1/8 and has a hole all the way through. So I have to use the jig to drill, turn it over, position, drill all the way back through. I discovered most of our wood is poplar that we use for these blocks. And you know how poplar has the green wood and the white wood? When you're end drilling, if you possibly can end drill in green wood, it drills so much better. It turns out almost like you're machining it perfectly. I mean, it looks good, and you don't have nearly the tear out. It's like when I'm grabbing those little pieces, I'm looking at it saying, how can I get it into the green instead of into the white? Because I just don't have the tear out. I don't have, it's just beautiful. But this is a piece. Again, the jigs for safety. You get a big piece like this, and you're doing a chop saw with it, going through that one cut with a chop saw. If you don't have it secure and your hand's away, you'll get this thing bound up in that thing, and it'll throw these things. And you know, I made the decision. They were trying to get me to, if there was only that much left over on it, just go ahead and cut that off. And it's like, no. When they made me do that, and after a little while, I brought in 2 bent saw blades and said, $90 a piece to save $3 to $5 worth of wood. It's not worth it. And that's one of the things I also had to learn when I was doing commercial stuff. When we're sanding and you're just puttering around here and sanding, if it takes you an extra half an hour to sand something, for some of us, just working with this wood we enjoy working with it. But when you're starting to talk about production, 50 cents a piece for a piece of sandpaper that goes on the underneath side of your random orbit sander, 50 cents a piece. If you start increasing your time to make up one of the kits by at 40 minutes, when you're sanding both sides of 30 to 40 board foot of wood, if you're adding that much time to it, just spend the 50 cents, throw the piece of sandpaper away, and start over. You'll find you can sand so much faster with nice, clean, fresh sandpaper. It works faster, you get a better job, and less fatigue at the end of the day. See, I've done that. When I start with wood, we have customers that are very picky. They're saying $10,000 on a truck. A lot of these people will spend $80,000 restoring their truck for parts. And they want clear wood. Historically correct for the bed wood is yellow pine. That's the proper historically correct, and some people are fanatics about doing historically correct. But some people want the red oak. And that's the main two we're selling. I'm trying to get them to switch over to white oak. If somebody leaves their truck outside and it's red oak, Cal, what happens if red oak gets wet? It doesn't last. You know, back to basic woodworking. In basic woodworking, we teach them that sometimes we'll take a 3/4 inch square piece of red oak, about 18 inches long, stick it in the end of soapy water and blow on it, and foam comes out the bottom. It's that porous of a wood. But, I mean, hey, it looks pretty as long as you never leave the truck outside or don't drive somewhere and it rains on you. So, but those are the two woods we use right now. And historically correct is yellow pine painted black. I'm going to start this around. Should have started this one earlier. This is a sample. You make pieces of wood, and they're held down by some metal strips. Chris, can you show us some of the pictures of the long pieces of wood I had? Yeah. This came from a project I made for one of our regular customers. You know, most of our customers restore one or two pieces of one or two trucks in their life. This guy has restored 16 trucks and spent $15,000 to $20,000 with us for 16 trucks per truck. And he called and he wanted to know, he wanted a particular kit, and I happened to have 4 pieces of wood that were 18 inches wide that were book matched out of the same log. And so for him, for that one, I made it so that I matched the grain all the way across. And he came in to pick it up, and he was giggling. We make truck parts, and we ship. I've shipped to England, shipped to Germany, New Zealand, Australia, Taiwan. We get a lot of our parts from Taiwan, and we are worried about what's happening in the world right now because some of the parts we can get, the only place we can get them is from Taiwan. I'm going to start passing some of these pieces of wood around so you can see there's a groove cut in that is the edge of the groove is 9/16 of an inch from the edge to the far side of the groove, and then I have to rabbet it. I've got really pretty good at rabbeting and ripping wood. Each kit has between 6 and 9 pieces of wood. Well, until you get to some of the newer trucks, some of them have 16 pieces of wood. Most of it's between 77 and 97 inches long. And I've got fairly decent at ripping a lot of wood. And then, of course, you take the table saw, set the depth at 5/16 of an inch to cut your groove, and 1/8 of an inch to cut your rabbet on that. Have one table saw set up just for rabbeting. But we start with as clear wood as we can find. If you buy a piece of wood and there's a knot in the middle of an 8-foot long board, when you're making furniture, you can usually make your pieces fit around it. I need a piece of wood that's 8 foot long, and it cannot have any significant knots. We'll get little pin knots that we can work around, but if there's any significant knots, I have to reject it. And so I get random width wood. I get S2S on my oak. I get S2S straight line on one side. And then I'm going to pass around. These are my Bibles. It has the dimensions for every one of our kits in there for the bedwoods. It also has the dimensions for those blocks. And that dimension of the 9/16 from the edge with an 1/8 inch groove, that's not just for Chevy trucks. They use the same pieces of metal to hold down that I have on that piece I'm passing around. Same pieces of metal for Chevy, Dodge, Ford. They use the exact same straps to hold your metal down. So if I may not have the book that is official for a Dodge or a Ford, but I can figure out from when they bring me the truck, if I can see the pictures, how wide to make the pieces. But I start with the dimensions there. The two outside pieces only have a groove where the metal comes in, then they slide underneath a piece of corner metal that holds them down on the outside edge. Had a customer just today, his dad had ordered the wrong wood 3 years ago, and now they're getting ready to put it in the truck, and this is wrong. Well, we can't return it for him. But I was able to figure out which one that he really had, and he did have access to a table saw, so I just made 2 pieces that were for the outside, made them each 2 inches wider than he really needed, and told him, lay out your wood, get it all set up, and then just rip these 2 outside ones down to what you need. So we were able to save him on that. But I start with a piece of wood, have to look for clear. I can have a few knots on the side that's going to be hidden. And I found I look much closer at a piece of wood before I start cutting on it now. I look for where my knots are, and okay, if I've got a knot that's just a little lightly in the edge, I may go ahead and put it in the rabbet and cut it out. You have to look quick. You have to be quick at it, but you have to look and see where all your rabbets are and grooves. And so I see if that's 9/16 of an inch away. Sometimes I'll go ahead and rip out knots off of either side so I can get the wood out of the middle. But you really have to watch your knots. Then I rip it, and then I cut the groove, and then I put my rabbet. Chris, can you show the ones that shows a piece of wood going into a table saw? Yeah, this one here. Can we zoom in on this wheel thing up here? Okay, there was one there. That's a wheel that holds my wood from kicking back. It's not a feather board, but it works. And if you'll see that wheel, it's got a spring pushing it down. And by tightening the nut on the bolt that runs on the shaft to hold it up and down, I can adjust the tension I have on the wood, and I can shove it right through there, and it doesn't kick back on me at all. And it's that wooden fence on the side. I'm underneath the edge of that with the rabbet the dado head is underneath there. I don't have any kickback on that at all. But when I do that, the spring that holds it, can we go back and look at the one that's got the spring again? Anybody recognize what that spring is? Nope. Nope, that's a valve spring out of a 1950 Chevy pickup truck. It works. It works, and it works great. It wasn't what was planned for. Now, if you get a newer truck, this is actually for a panel truck. It's one of my patterns. So a 46 panel truck. We have to worry about where the wheel well is. And then the panel truck had all sorts of shapes for it. And so what I did for this was they had drawings for me, and they were, oh, this is how you do the drawing. And I said, no, I'm going to make a pattern. And this works right or left side, you just flip it over. I just scratch it out with just a pencil, and we don't have to really get a bandsaw on a piece this size would be, feeding that around the band and all that would be a pain. So we just went with a good old-fashioned saber saw, cut it out that way. And I cut it a little oversized, and then just use a patterning bit. That's what we do on that. And that's one of the hard ones. They did have a few patterns when I got there. This is for a 51 panel truck. That goes next to the wheel well, and this is on the outside front. And front outside piece in the bed. And they had 4 different patterns, and all said they were the right pattern. So what I did the first time I did one of these is I made, this one's labeled A, I made A, B, C, and D, and sent the customer the first, the set, and I sent him all 4 pieces and said, okay, you tell me which one fit. I went with the next one, tried sending him the D, and they said that didn't fit. I found out that within the year of that particular model, they had changes in the side, and there's 4 different pieces, and we have no way of knowing which one it is. So I'll send him 4 and send us back the ones that you didn't need because somebody else is going to need them. But these are, using this pattern is the only way to do it. This is for the most of the most of your fleet side pickups. We okay, Mike? Chris? Okay. There are 3 different lengths of fleet side trucks. There's a 77 and a quarter inch, there's a 97 an inch, and a 113 inch. And but this length here is the same. And so I just know that I've got, for the BP 203, I come in 12 inches from the end of it, lay this out. And that is one thing I like about the fleet sides. Sometimes I can see a knot. Instead of throwing a piece of wood out, I can go ahead and put the knot inside this area so I don't waste wood. But when I use the pine is so much softer than the oak that I'll get dents in it. And as it's in storage and stuff, it gets more dents in it. And so I went and I have them, when they send me the pine, it's between 3/64 and 16th inch over thickness. And I do that. I cut my groove and my rabbet over thickness, cut it down by a 32nd of an inch so I can have smooth, and I can also, I do that on the back side, and that's the last step before I do my final sanding is to do that. That way I don't have any more dents in it than possible. Just, it cuts down the time that I have to spend messing with all the dents and trying to get this sanded out. And these customers, if there's a dent in their wood, oh, they're going to send it back to you. And it's like, well, did you have it out of the box before you put it in? And, you know, sometimes we get them 2 years later and it's like, we have no control on how you stored this wood. It's just, we don't know.
Roland,
Yes?
do you put the finish on yourself? Or
No.
does someone else put the finish on?
They put the finish on.
They do?
Yeah, because there is some, depending on the length of your truck, there's either 4 or 6 bolts that hold the bed down to the frame, and that has to be drilled in once it's in place. So we have them do that. We want you to, when you have a truck that is 70 years old or 80 years old, and we have trucks that are that old or older, can you guarantee that it's not been in an accident, that frame hasn't been jacked around? And so they said, well, this is an original truck. There's no. The engine, you just read me the engine part number, the block casting number. You've got a 41. You claim it has a 216. No, you've got a 235 or a 261 out of a 55. I can tell just by the numbers that it's not an original one. And there's no way we can guarantee those holes are going to line up with where, I can't just, like I ran into with the panel trucks where I found 4 different pieces that I had to have. There's variance. And when they came from the factory, the way they actually did it in the factory was they'd set the cab on the bed on the chassis, and then they would drill up from underneath, and with an undersized drill, and then they drill down, and that's how they knew where they went. So no, we're not gonna do that ahead of time and have them say, well, it didn't line up. Well, it didn't line up because it changes every time. I have done some wood that was specialty wood, and actually I had a guy come in and wanted me to, he brought the wood in, and he had me make a bed for him that was out of tiger stripe maple. And he sanded that down to 1200 grit and put polished bed strips to hold the metal down. And he had a form of bed strips that he had no bolts that showed. And that was polished aluminum. It was sharp. It was really sharp. And he stained the bed to look like the red of a violin. Oh, it was a sharp looking pickup truck. But that truck is never going to be outside. And I specifically told him, you get this maple outside and you're going to go from tiger stripe maple to spalted maple real quick. But anyway, that's a lot of what I do. I do everything from, you remember the old antennas they used to have in the 50s on the cars that had the little red balls on them? I put the little red balls on them. And that is actually wood. They're wooden balls, but it's hard to find just a 9/16 inch wooden ball. And that's the proper size. We drill it. And when we drill it, then I don't drill all the way through. And you know, you can get just a bead, and then you have to try and fill the backfill, and it's just, I just got a machinist vise, clamp that in, center it, drill, drill, drill. It's so much easier to do it that way. Let's see. Any questions?
What's the range of cost for one of your kits?
For the bed wood, it depends if we're like, and it also depends on oak or pine, and I'm trying to get them to understand that actually, right now with the cost of wood, I'm paying just right at the same price for pine as I am for oak. And because I have to do more work to take the dents out of the pine, I spend more time making a pine set than I do on the wood. I'm trying to say, this is where your costs are. Cost of production is not just the cost of materials, and they had it figured out that for a 46 short bed, that was 39 board foot of wood. That's how much wood's in it. But that's not how much wood it takes. And I'm starting to get them convinced that it'll allow 30 to 40% wastage. Because if I have a knot, what would be a woodworker's, you know, it's no problem. Workaround, yeah, that's no problem. I can't just chop it out. So I'm starting to get them to understand that I need 30 to 40% wastage. And that took them a long time to start figuring that. And I've also almost got them convinced. I had him convinced, and then they decided they didn't have money for a saw stop. It's like, before I hired on, you had a guy that lost 2 fingers and had one reattached, and then they had to go back and take it off. How much money would you save with a saw stop? It's, you know, get the quality wood. And the other thing I run into is the fences are so loose on the contractor's saw that I have to check and check. And I don't know, move it here, because it's just, I could get my production speed up a lot if they would go ahead and spend the money on a quality saw that I I can come to a 9/16, I can set it, make one quick check, it'll be there. And that is really important. I am also working on, finally got the router bit coming, where I've got a fly cutter on the, or a slot cutter, and then I've got a flush cut, and then I've got a bearing on top of that. So in one pass, I'll be able to cut the groove and the rabbet in one pass, and flip it over and do it on the other side.
That's a specially made bit you're having done.
Yeah, I'm having a special made, and actually I'm using the regular grooving bit, 1/8" grooving bit, and I'm buying several of those, and I'm going to have it so it screws down on top of it. And that way, if one of them gets dull, I can put another one on pretty quick. Making a 10-foot long router table so I can have it smooth. Yeah, Jim?
Where do you buy your material?
We've been buying a bunch of it from Bloomers. We started at Liberty, and I'm saying, you know, Bloomers just gave us a better quality at a better price. I'm going to go with L&K and see if I can't get. Our next order is coming from L&K, just to see if they can give us the quality we need. Quality is so critical in ours, where we have to worry so much about the knots. Yeah.
I mean, this is neat and good for you and everything, but I'm kind of curious, that you like, how do you come up with the jigs? How do you design them? What, you know?
Some of them were designed before I got there. There had been one guy, they had 3 guys before me. One guy lasted 6 weeks, one guy lasted about a year. And then the guy before that, his wife, when COVID hit, she wanted him home. He was already 68 years old, and she was determined that he was going to be home with her. So, and Chuck had come up with several of the designs, and then I just have to sit back and say, like this one. This one is purely mine. I've got some T-nuts in here, and and I couldn't find one of the number 4s, and it's got 3 holes in it that are countersunk, and so I used a countersunk one that drops the head of the screw down below the surface. Then when I go to the router table, I'm able to spin it around on the router table, keeping my fingers totally away from anything that's flying. But because I'm using countersunk flathead screws, everything's below the surface, and I'm able to just put it on the router table.
Do you use steel or brass screws or something?
Steel screws.
Okay, so you're not worried.
No, I'm not going to get anywhere near the metal with that.
Roland,
Yeah.
some questions from YouTube. Do you make parts for Woody station wagons or other wood car parts?
I'm working on trying to get into that. Mr. Tim Locke has a friend who has been making the wood for Woody Ford pickups. And the guy's trying to get out of the business, and I'm working on trying to get those parts, because I would love to do that. Some of the old Chevy trucks had the inside of the door frames were wood. We don't make those. I haven't been able to find a door frame that was in good enough condition that I could use it for a pattern to make parts. I mean, they're just rotted. I don't have good enough parts to make a pattern. You're not signaling, Wayne? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah.
What's the name of the company you work for?
It's Jim Carter Truck Parts, or oldchevytrucks.com. And it's in Independence. Jim just has a passion for the old Chevy trucks.
You mentioned at the very beginning and just now, just Chevrolet, you don't do...
Just Chevy. I'm not the one that made that decision. I think we could I think there's a big enough market in the Dodge and in the Ford that we could seriously get into it. But he's found a little niche that he's happy with, and he doesn't want to expand to get more parts because.
Do you get trucks from all over the country? Or?
New Zealand, Australia,
Oh, wow.
Japan, Korea, Germany. We just send the kits out to them, and we don't sell a complete engine, but we will sell almost any part of the engine. Brake cylinders, master cylinders, wheel cylinders, brake lines, the clips to hold the rubber brake lines in place go into your wheel cylinders. I mean, the fenders, the pieces that go between an inner fender that is completely hidden. There's rubber pieces that go between the fender, called the welt, goes between the fender and the cowl. We sell all those pieces. So I mean, we'd like to say, we can't always say it, but we'd like to say we sell enough that you could come to us as long as you've got a frame. We can sell you everything you need to do to build a new truck. Anything else?
Thank you. Done.
Well, Roland, thank you very good. Very good. Roland, thank you very much. And as always, you know the tradition. You've been here in my place before. The only way to get those is to present, so it's a small token of our appreciation. So thank you very much. And hold that up. We'll get the official mugshot. All right. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great night. As always, if you can, help us get a little cleaned up. And everyone have a great and happy Thanksgiving, and enjoy your family and friends, and eat a lot of food, and we'll see you next month for the Christmas party.
I forgot one thing. This is what's called a toe board. It fits under where your toes go. Steering column goes through here. Let's see, it goes like. Anyway, you've got a place for your throttle. You got a place for your brake linkages. It all fits in here, and you've got to cope this. That's the only time I use a radial arm saw, is to cope this out, and this out. So it all fits into place.
Awesome. Thanks, Roland.
Yeah.
A special thank you to our guest today, to the Guild's Leadership Committee, and to all of our sponsors. For more information about the Guild, upcoming classes, and events, please visit our website kcwg.org. You can also find us on social media by searching for Kansas City Woodworkers Guild. And remember to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications.